Hey Flosstube, it's Deborah with another episode of Kensington Cross Stitch. Welcome back, or to those of you who are new, thanks so much for taking the time to join me this time. Today is February 28, 2024, for those of you who are keeping track. It is also the end of a work day, so I was at work all day. It's been kind of rainy and gloomy and overcast, but hopefully the lighting will be good, and I knew I was going to be doing this when I got home, so something to look forward to at an especially busy time of year. So I hope that you enjoy. And we've got lots of different things to talk about today. I've got a couple of finishes to show you, a project that was nowhere near finished the last time we talked about it that is fully finished, a couple of whips. I'm going to talk about Legos just briefly, maybe a couple other things. We'll see what happens. So anyway, thanks for joining me, and I am looking forward to chatting with you for a little while. So, what's been going on in the stitchy world? I was at a stitching day last weekend. Mama Sue, who is on Instagram as Mama Sue, she has a stitch in occasionally up in Massachusetts, and so I was able to join in for that. It was just casual, relaxed, just a good chance to be with friends and talk stitching and all kinds of different things. So Sue, thank you again very much for organizing it. I had a wonderful time, and we truly appreciate the work that you put into doing it. So thank you, and I am already excited about the next one. This coming weekend is the Connecticut Stitching Circle. So if you are in or around the Connecticut area and you're interested, we meet once a month now at the Wallingford Panera. This is the first Saturday of the month. So coming up in just a couple of days will be our next meetup. We do have a Facebook group at this point. So if you're also in the area but haven't made it and want to keep up to date on meetings and chit chat in between, Connecticut Stitching Circle on Facebook. There are the usual couple of questions to answer, and then we'll go from there. But I'm looking forward to seeing everybody on Saturday. My guess is there'll be lots of talk about market and what we're all spending or being wise and not spending our money on, whichever the case may be. But again, always a good opportunity to see friends and to get in some good stitching. So just in case you haven't been and want to join us, it is at the Wallingford Panera and starts at 10 a.m. on Saturday, first Saturday of the month, unless it's the first Saturday of the month for the most part. What else? I also have been having an adventure this week. And when I say an adventure, that's being really, really generous, because really what the adventure was is I spent a couple hours in my basement with a whole lot of plumbers who told me some very bad news. So now I'm in the place where I get to decide, do I want to spend an ouch amount of money to fix the immediate problem, or do I want to spend a huge ouch amount of money and actually fix it and come up with a permanent solution? You know, because there are things like I have really old pipes and they're cracking and they are riddled with roots, apparently. When you have 4 plumbers in your basement going, that's a lot of roots, you have a lot of roots. So that was a fun time. That's a really good way to spend your vacation time. I was like, hey, can we move those meetings? I'm going to take some vacation time because there are problems going on. So anyway, you know what? Life is life, and sometimes this is what being an adult is. But in the meantime, there's stitching and a lot of other things to distract us from these things that occur. So that's kind of what's been happening. And I think I will just launch into the stitching because we've got a couple of fun projects to talk about. The first one that I want to show you is a fully finished object. So in my last video, I showed you the finish, and now I get to show you the fully finished object. So it is quite large and unwieldy. So let me pull it out here. So this is the Spring ABCs piece, and this is from Little House Needleworks. And we have been doing a SAL called the Year of ABCs SAL. And we've been working on these kind of just a little bit each month so that we have them done and ready to go up on display for the season itself. You may notice that there is a slight mirroring. There is a slight gap right here. That is where this piece goes. And I've been just changing them out as the seasons happen. So at this point we have winter is finished, spring is now finished and ready to go up on display as well. And I'm just finishing all of them essentially the same way. They're each going to get a slightly different fabric on the back. Some cutesy little thing that I found to kind of fill up that space at the top. I thought that bunny was just really cute. And then the whole piece, let's see if we can get the whole piece in there. There you go. So that is Spring ABCs by Little House Needleworks. And at this point, once we kind of head into March, I'll be formally moving on to the summer piece, so that will be ready when we actually get to June. So I'm excited. I really love these colors. I think this one is just so bright and cheerful, exactly as you would expect of a spring piece. So I'm excited. So that was my FO that became an FFO. The other piece that I have to show you is, as I mentioned, the last time you saw it, it was a whip that I had not put a whole lot of work into, and it wasn't even something that was on my radar to be stitching, and I just kind of got in the mood and I stitched it and I finished it and I fully finished it, so I like it. So the piece that we're talking about is the Gather Round series, and this is Gather Wildflowers. So you may be sitting here thinking, that is very familiar. This is a piece that Kathy Haberman is going to be releasing to the general stitching community this weekend at Market. This was last year part of her Gather Round series, which is a seasonal series of 4 different sets of designs that were put out throughout the year, and it was kind of a club piece. And so I have I received those all along the way, and for various reasons, as happens, hadn't gotten as far as I expected. And then just not too long ago, I was thinking, I'm enjoying the winter pieces, but I'm feeling a little bit like I want to be stitching something springy, and I didn't want to start a new project. I wanted to work on something that was already in process, and I was like, I have just the thing. So I have fully finished it. The one thing I will say is I am only stitching 2 of the 3 from each of the designs. I'm going to be stitching kind of the quilted piece and then the piece that's the house. They are kind of consistent throughout that. So those are the 2 that I'm going to be stitching from each of these seasonal series. And here is my finish. So I've got the quilted piece on one side, and eagle-eyed viewers may note that I have put a little more yellow in my piece than the pattern calls for. In this case, it was entirely unintended. It's the end of a workday. It was unintended. The symbol for the yellow and the symbol for sort of another light cream color were basically the same piece, just upside down. It was like a U and an upside down U, and so I started stitching with yellow without realizing it, and I was like, I like the yellow, so I left it. So that was the piece that I did. This is the quilted piece, and then this is the cottage piece. And this also called for kind of that creamy color in the center, and I was just like, I like yellow, so I'm going to put some yellow in there. So I just switched that one out as well. So this is actually a 2-sided clock that I bought on Amazon. I knew when I decided that I was only going to stitch 2 of the 3 pieces that I was going to be looking for a different finish than what Kathy had provided us with some of the resources for, but I still obviously wanted to do it in the round, and I wanted something that would be able to showcase both pieces equally. And I thought of a 2-sided clock. So the intention is that this will get hung up on one of the walls here, and that way, kind of depending on where you are in the room, you'll be able to see both of the pieces. And then I did finish this with the washer and magnet method. I used 2 magnets and washers in each case, which is more than I would normally use for a piece this size, but it's attached to some fabric on top of batting, on top of some styrofoam, and I really wanted to make sure that it would hold well in that kind of case. So I have used a little more of the kind of, they're a little bit difficult to get off because they are so strongly magnetized to that piece, but I also wanted to use a backing fabric that would be very neutral, and is something that would fit for all of the seasons. So I just went with the simple gray and white. You see I got some glue on it and whatever. This is the stuff that gets covered up. Crooked magnet. These are all the secrets of finishers that they're like, yeah, that's what happens. Nobody sees it. It's fine. So you'll see that there is a tiny little crack there. That I got really lucky with this, because when I got this piece, I had hoped that I would be able to reuse some of the inner clock pieces to kind of hold the 2 pieces, obviously because you want them outside of it. It turned out that I was not going to be able to do that in this case, so I had to come up with something that would actually fill up this entire space in between, because it just opens with a little latch. and I got very lucky. I went to Joann and I picked up some styrofoam. And this was a set of 3 styrofoam circles. They were actually styrofoam ornaments, so they all had kind of a tiny little knob at the top, like a Christmas tree ornament. So I just took my X-Acto knife and I just cut those little knobs off. And so I had 3 circles, glued them together just to kind of make sure that they were secured. And then what I did is I took a charm square, so a 5x5 piece of fabric, and I just pinned it like you would pin a piece that you were framing to really secure it there. And then I just figured, it doesn't matter if it's got little lips on it. Nobody's going to see it. It's fine. If I really wanted to, obviously I could switch out the fabric and I could do some things. And then, amazingly enough, those circles fit exactly in the space of this clock, and they fit exactly in the kind of depth that I needed to fill. And I was just like, when does that ever happen? And so I'm able to essentially just lay those 2 pieces, that piece in there, seal it up, and there's my piece. And so that way, if I want to, I can obviously just put the new pieces on without having to open anything up. If I want to, I can change the fabric. If it turns out that it's not really adhering over time, I can always come up with a different solution. If necessary, I could always just adhere the piece directly to here rather than using the magnets. And I could just get a couple more sets of these rounds and just do a whole finish on each of those each time. So we'll see. But I'm really pleased. I just was, the moment I kind of I did the little trimming and I put them in there and I was like, are you kidding me? This fits exactly. I felt very, very lucky. So I am so pleased with this. Totally off center at this point. I'll fix that. But a really fun piece. These are very small pieces. Don't take that long to stitch. It was a couple of quick stitching sessions, really cheerful colors. And there are similar pieces for each of the other seasons. So I know Kathy is releasing this first piece at Market, and my assumption is that each of the rest will be released over the course of the year. So that is the Gather Wildflowers piece. Totally upside down at this point. So those were my 2 fully finished pieces. The rest of what we've got is a couple of whips. So the first one to show you is my annual project, which is a Veronique Enginger advent calendar. And it's coming from this Magic of Christmas to Cross Stitch book. And showing my same picture that I show every time, just because, you know what? That's where the bookmark is. And so this is a piece that has a book that has all kinds of different designs, and within each design there is a small advent calendar, and I'm just making some adaptations to it and stitching 2 of these each month so that by the time we get to December, I'll have gotten them all finished and up. Obviously I'll need to do a little bit of quick finishing right in December to get those last 2 up for the month, but even so. Anyway, so for our February piece, we obviously had numbers 3 and 4. Now you did see 3 last time, but I have finished number 4 as well. These were 2 pieces that I adapted, and so I took these motifs from elsewhere in the pattern and made my own kind of design, which is why they're a little bit similar. They're both sort of centered toward the bottom, have the number in one particular place. It was just sort of happened to be coincidence that that's how those 2 fit in on this case. But this one I really love. I love trains, and so I thought it was just really fun to include that. And then I just added this present that was elsewhere in the picture, and I just put it right on top, and it was like, train, Christmas presents are coming to town. So that is 3 and 4 for this month, and when we tick over into March, I'll get started on 5 and 6. I will say the current craze I know for many people is these magnetic frames. This is something that Helen D mentioned on her channel recently, and a whole lot of us have gone onto Etsy and purchased them. Do not have your fingers anywhere near these because, as I just did, I pinched them. The magnets in here are very strong, so just be careful of that. I ordered a couple of different sizes of these. They come in several different sizes. I had already cut my pieces out, and I knew that they probably were going to be even too big or too small for the smallest piece. So obviously they don't fit this way, but what I do is I've been stitching the frame, and then I can fit the rest of the piece in going this way. It holds it very, very well. The thing that I really like about these frames is it means that you're not constantly getting your thread caught on the edge of the perforated paper, which if you've stitched on perforated paper before, you know is really, really irritating. So at the very least, it helps prevent that and makes just for a little more seamless of a stitching experience, and you have something a little more solid to hold on to than a piece that you feel like, what am I doing to damage this? So I can put the shop that I bought these from on Etsy, but there are a couple of these coming out of the Ukraine that are selling very similar items on Etsy at this point. So that's a new frame that I have purchased and have really liked. And then my next piece that I have been working on is another hands-on design piece. This is the piece that I was actually planning to work on this winter. And this is from the Banner series, and it is called Snow Much Fun. And I have been stitching these on a couple of triangular pieces of fabric that I bought. They're already hem stitched, they're already finished. And I had bought these a number of years ago, excuse me, in Germany, and have finally found the perfect project for them. Ha! I did it. So this was the one that I started with, is Much, which is the centerpiece. And I started with that one because I have one white piece and two blue pieces. And I just kind of wanted to work on, frankly, the easy one first. And then figured out all of the kind of dimensions and where I needed to start, and the fact that everything fits so well in there. So this is one that you have seen before if you've been with me in previous episodes. And then I have also now finished the snow piece. So this is the first one in the series. This one has been I will say, I really love how the colors pop on this navy. It is just so vibrant and rich. I think this is really beautiful, but I think that the way that the colors pop on the navy is making it worthwhile to stitch on the navy, while it's been a pain to stitch on the navy. Like, it is, for me, it's quite difficult to be able to see the holes in this while I'm stitching, and so it's become a project that I can't just pick up and work on. I have to make sure it's a bright sunny day. I have to have all the lighting on. I have to have my stronger glasses on, and so it really has to be ideal conditions for me to be able to see this. I do you have something white underneath it so you can see like everything that you can do to help. And I was fortunate to have a couple of days recently in which I was able to really make some good progress on this piece and finished it. And I started the final piece. Lots of work on this one. Yep, basically just to be like, yep, here's your guide. But this is one that is also going to have to wait again for another one of those really good bright days. I had really hoped to have this done this winter. We'll see how it goes. I know that at some point I'm going to just be like, I don't want to stitch winter anymore. I need to move on. But I have made really good progress on the series, and I know kind of what I need in order to get it stitched moving forward. So I'll work on it if I happen to have a really good day for it, and if not, I can set it aside and I can always pick it up again later in the year when we're back to winter on the other side of the year. But a series that I have been really enjoying, and I really love how they're fitting in on these fabric pieces too. So that was Snow Much Fun by Hands On Design, and I am stitching it using sulky threads, which are similar to the called for but not exactly. So that is what I'm working on there. And then the last whip that I have to show you is one that I'm stitching along with Tracy from OG Stitchery. And this is Winter Typography, and this is by Sandra Workman from Pine Mountain Designs. And the last time I saw it, or last time you saw it, I had the letter S in sledding. That was all I had done. It was a very impressive start. I picked it up. I've done a little bit of extra work on it. So at this point, here is my progress. I am really enjoying this piece. I knew that I would be because those colors are just so absolutely beautiful. This is, I'm using the called for colors all except one Victorian motto, which I had to sub in. I didn't have the DMC, but it's essentially the exact same as the DMC. And those colors are, as you can see, are just absolutely gorgeous. They're cheerful, they're bright. They're very much winter colors, and I think that you don't quite get the vibrancy of them in this picture. As nice as this picture is, it really is, it feels a little darker, and these colors are just so bright and vibrant. And I picked this up and I've been really enjoying working on it. So my thought at this point is also I'm just going to keep working on this as long as I'm also in the winter mood, and hopefully something that I can get done. For whatever reason, it feels like it's a bigger piece than it actually is, and it's not. I mean, this is the full width of the project. I think there's one more set of words up here and a couple down here. It's really not a big piece. It's something that can be done quite easily. And is that the cutest snowman in the world? It's a really cute snowman. So that is winter typography. And with that, that is the stitching that I've gotten done over the last couple of weeks. Lots of different projects. I enjoy kind of the opportunity to hop around and work on different things and see what I'm in the mood for. But good stitching. I would say in terms of plans, we know that my plans are plans. I definitely want to keep working on the winter typography. I'm really hoping I can get that one done this winter. If I happen to have some really good sunny days, I'll keep working on Snow Much Fun. And then as we're kind of heading into spring stitching, I want to get started on my Wreath of Roses piece. This is something I showed in my whip parade. It's my oldest whip by far. It's a project for my mother, who also, when I was mentioning this to her, was like, oh, for my 75th birthday. I'm like, oh, that's right. It's her 75th birthday this year. So it's like, it's a big year. It's not just like any year. My guess is I will not have it done by her birthday, which is coming up very soon, but Mother's Day is potentially a reasonable period of time after it in which to get that done. So that is a piece that's really going to be my focus piece for the spring. She would like to have it. I would like to have it done. That's the kind of project it is. But that is something I'm looking forward to. Let's see, what else? Market is coming up this weekend. I know there is a lot of chatter about Market. I did wind up purchasing a couple of things I ordered through Pam at Stitch New England. It wasn't that there wasn't anything that I was like, I need this right now and I'm going to stitch it the moment it arrives, but there were several pieces that I was like, I definitely want that. I will definitely be stitching it. And originally my plan was just, I'll just pick it up the next time I'm over at Pan's shop. But there was one piece that came along and I was like, oh, I really want that. I just really, really want that right now. So I wound up just ordering a couple of things. I'll show you those when they arrive. But there is definitely a lot of excitement about Market. And even if you are buying a whole lot, even if you're not buying anything and you're just enjoying the chatter, I hope it is something that's giving you some pleasure as you're looking forward to seeing the releases and seeing what everybody is stitching on. Let me know in the comments, what are you excited about? What is that you're thrilled about at Market, whether it's the piece that you know that you are going to start stitching at the moment it arrives, or if it's just you like knowing it's out there in the world. Whatever it is, what really struck you about Market this year, let me know. Let's see, what else? I think that's the last of the stitching content. I'm going to show you two other things, actually. I'm going to show you a Lego piece that I finished recently, and then I'm going to do a little book haul. Not like stitching haul, but like book haul, because why not? And that'll be our episode for today. So, one of the things that I've talked about in the past is I have been enjoying putting together Legos. Like, obviously, I put together Legos all my life, but as an adult, recently I've gotten back into Legos, as many of my family members have, and there's always really fun pieces coming out. And so one that I did recently is just it's a small piece. It was just an hour or so in the evening, but a really fun project. So this is the retro camera, and this is one of the 3-in-1 sets. So you actually can put together 3 totally different, related but different designs using the same set of pieces, which I think is just really clever. And then what I love about this is you can actually spin some of these pieces. You can open the back here, and just like you would to actually replace the film, you actually have some film that is in there, and oh, knocked the piece off. Let's see here. So we've got our film with a couple of little images. It actually comes with an extra one, so you can also have a display, one in the camera, one out there, and it just kind of slides right in there, and it opens up just like a regular camera would. I really love how much attention they put to the insides of pieces, things that you would never see, that only as the person who is putting a piece together sees it, but there were all kinds of really fun details that you find in these projects, and it just makes the process of putting them together enjoyable as well as the final product. So there is my little retro camera. It comes with a little handle there. So that was just, like I mentioned, it was a quick evening project, but one that I really enjoyed. This is going to be the one that I keep. The other two pieces that you can make with this set are nice, but I really like this one. I mean, it's even got the slot here where you can slide your flash in if you wanted to. It's just, the details of it are fantastic. So that was the retro camera set by Lego. And it's something that I really enjoy doing. You know, there are times when, as much as I love stitching doesn't quite take up some of the brain space that gets taken up with a lot of other things. And so sometimes when I've had a day when I just need to disconnect, I need to not be thinking about things, stitching doesn't quite take up that brain space in a way that I need it to do, as much as I love it. And so what I found is Legos do that for me. It just uses your brain in a different way, and it allows me to disconnect and kind of relax from the day. So that's something that I definitely do in the evening sometimes. So, okay. The other thing that I want to show you is just a little bit of book haul. I have been continuing to read. I've been reading a lot of classic murder mysteries, as is my jam. But I happened to visit the bookstore the other day and saw a couple of titles that I was interested in. Again, in the same way that I'm not sure when I will actually start stitching the market pieces that I picked up. I don't know when I'm going to read these books, but you know what? If one of these strikes your fancy and you want to read along with me, let me know. So the first book that I picked up is The Cold War, A New History by John Lewis Gaddis. I have to say, like, the Cold War isn't like, oh my gosh, I need to read about the Cold War right now. But the reason that I picked this one up is John Lewis Gaddis is an author, or excuse me, a professor at Yale, and he has been teaching in the Grand Strategy program. He created the program there. And it's a program talking about how lessons from history can be used to talk about strategy and thinking in a variety of ways. And so he wrote a book several years ago called On Grand Strategy, and it basically encapsulates the content of that course in a book. And I read it, really enjoyed it. It is, again, kind of an area of like classic warfare, like historical warfare and things like this, that I am not something that I normally spend a whole lot of time on, but it was just so well done in the way that it talks about our own thinking, the way that we make decisions, whether we're doing that in a kind of very intuitive, quick way or very slow, logical way. There's conversation he talks about. There's a classic piece called The Fox and the, Fox and the Hedgehog, and talking about thinking in that way. And so I just really enjoyed reading that book, and I enjoyed it so much I just thought I'll give one of his other books a try. This is actually his area of historical focus in other areas of his scholarly work. But anyway, Cold War. The other book that I picked up, coincidentally actually, is a book called Thinking, Fast and Slow. And this is by Daniel Kahneman. And he's an economist. And this one is also basically talking about the ways that people think. And it's either people tend to think as very quick, intuitive ways, make decisions very, very quickly, and then other people are much more deliberate and logical in the way that they make their decisions. And so it's about how that impacts our decisions and our lives in the way that we do it. As you can see, this is a very large book. There's a lot to say on this topic, but having read the On Grand Strategy book and really appreciating the comments that were in there about not only knowing the way that you think, but also needing to adapt, or what can be beneficial about adapting yourself in other ways of thinking can be beneficial. So I thought that this would be a really good sort of companion piece to that. I've been meaning to reread the strategy book, so I think between the two of those, I think it'll be very helpful. So that was Thinking Fast and Slow. And then the other book that I bought is The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. And this is a fantasy, kind of an urban fantasy book. I've been meaning to read this for several years. It has really great reviews. Obviously she's won the Hugo Award multiple times. And I think that this is essentially about a world in which sort of cities have a person who embodies them in some way. And then in New York, because of the boroughs, they have 6 people. And so it's about kind of that interaction between them. I was walking around the bookstore, and there was somebody, I don't think she was doing this intentionally at all, but there was a salesperson who we kept sort of moving in like similar circles. And so I would be over here and looking at something, and she'd come over and be like, oh, did you know? And then I would move along, and then she would come over and say something else, and it was really helpful. It was good information. But I was picking this one up, and she's like, oh, have you read this? And anyway, so she was doing her job very well, but in a way that I think she was genuinely being helpful and like, hey, you're looking at some interesting things. Here's some stuff I have to say about it. So I picked this one up, and I did ask her, I was like, is this a series or a standalone? And she's like, it's a standalone novel. I was like, yes. And she's like, oh, okay. I was like, no, I mean, like series are wonderful, but sometimes you want a complete story. So this is one that I have had on my to-read list for a really long time. Had a chance to pick it up. And part of the reason I had a chance to pick it up is because these 2 books were buy one, get one 50% off, and it was like mix and match. And so those were the 2 that I liked. So that was The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin, Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman, and then The Cold War, A New History by John Lewis Gaddis. So again, like I said, if any of these struck your fancy and you want to read them with me, let me know. Otherwise, they'll kind of go in the, embarrassingly large pile of books to read at some point. But there's just something about knowing that you've got a book and you're excited about it, that alone is fun. So anyway, I think that is our episode for today. Thank you for joining me. Remember to let me know in the comments what you are excited about or has really captured your attention about Market. And I look forward to seeing you all again soon. Bye, everybody.